June has come and gone, and Draw Steel might be releasing in less than 2 weeks. But before that happens, I'll tell you about the release candidate of the rules, the updated Monsters manuscript, the Summoner playtest, and the fantastic community projects that are being published. I'm John Denor, and this is Goblin Points. Okay, the big news first. The near-finished version of the Draw Steel Heroes book has been released to patrons. This is what MCDM calls a release candidate, which means that all the important work is done and it's basically ready to go to print. There are a few things missing from the PDF still. James actually provided a handy list in the Patreon post. The book has not gone through an accessibility pass. There's art that's missing, and sometimes the same piece of art is used multiple times. There are inconsistent spacing in the layout in some places. There are no bookmarks to navigate with. There's just 400 pages of PDF document. Links aren't working, and there's no table of contents. So, yeah. But so much of the book is here. The colors, most of the art, the layout, the ability blocks, it's truly the first time you get to experience what the game will actually look like. And speaking of what it looks like, I would like to prepare for when you see the book. The pages of the book are most likely not what you're used to seeing. There is no intricate border along the edges, no gradients in the background of the pages, and no colorful headers and icons. The book is pragmatic. It's black text on an off-white cream background, and the art has crisp edges with a simple line to hint at a frame. This is very different from what you might be used to. Personally, the design has grown on me, but it's not fully to my taste. I have, however, seen people on the Discord and Reddit mention that they like the clean design, without all the frills and distractions. Matt has stated multiple times that he wants the rule to look and especially be usable as a reference manual. It's not a book you sit down to read under a blanket. It's a tool to look up rules. That has produced a book that looks very different from other rule books in this space. I think the best thing I can say about this is that, just as with the rest of the game, the design has a purpose and a goal it's trying to achieve. And I think it's achieved that goal. And as with Draw Steel, it'll turn some people off, and some will love it. Alongside the Heroes PDF, they also released the most up-to-date version of the Monsters manuscript. This has not gone through editing and layout, so it looks the same as always. Willie included a little note at the start of the document saying that there's still edits and updates missing for a lot of the monsters. That will be fixed as the book is getting to layout and editing. In the foreword, Willie explicitly mentions not to update any digital tools, and as the developer of Stall, I feel a bit called out. And Andy Eichen, who makes Forged Steel, and I will just have to wait a little longer. The game is still on track to release on July 17th. The second biggest news of the month is, of course, the release of the Summoner preview. Willie dropped all 10 levels of the Summoner to patrons to try out. It's not gone through editing, and it needs a lot more testing before it's ready. It's also gone through some changes since the post on the Summoner from February. Back then, the minions were basically a heroic resource, but that's been changed now. You spend essence to spawn a horde of allies. The class includes 4 subclasses specializing in summoning different kinds of creatures: undead, demons, elementals, and fae. If you want to see the Summoner in action, Rise Heroes Rise is publishing videos of the Summoner being tested at 4 different levels. Link can be found in the show notes. Tabletop Nonsense Verse has published the first issue of their Draw Steel zine, The Blacksmith's Guild. The issue features 5 articles from authors known in the Draw Steel community. The first article is on sidekick retainers, which are based on the player classes. The 3 included in this article is based on the Tactician, the Shadow, and the Elementalist. The sidekicks can be used as regular retainers that joins one of the heroes, but it's also suggested that they can work as stand-ins for characters whose players are absent. If a player can't make the session, use one of these retainers in place of the player's regular character. Then the character can still contribute, but it's not as big a burden on the other players. The issue also includes a detailed walkthrough on how to create your own ancestry for Drawsteel. It explains the theory on how to balance an ancestry, what makes a good signature trait, and how much traits should cost. Then, it leads you through the process of creating a brand new ancestry, Harpies from Axiom, putting the theory into practice. There's also a collection of 7 new kits, a new monster faction of Frost Elves consisting of 6 new monsters, and a 3-room dungeon delve called Lost Crypt of Dareldur. You can snag the issue on Tabletop Nonsense vs. Online Storefront for $4.99. If you listen to Goblin Points regularly, you'll already know about Ratcatcher Magazine from the previous episode where I interviewed Onslaught 6. I'm happy to say they've managed to not only fund the magazine, but also go way beyond that. That means there's more to go around to the contributors. The magazine features articles from Spencer Hibnick, aka Pesto Enthusiast, Sam McGurran, Felix Gauthier Mamarel, Joel Russ, Aaron Flavius West, aka Mr. Fizzer, and Chris Hopper. And there's art by Inga and Dojicon. If you're active in the Drawsteel community, you'll probably recognize a few of those names. The articles include topics such as living traps, monster stat blocks from mimics and elemental dancers, and creatures of the wood, a new flowerfolk and dryad ancestries. There's a lot of great stuff here. The campaign is now over, but it'll be possible to get the PDF of the magazine in the future. Onslaught 6 also mentioned wanting to have a backlog of physical editions of the magazine available for purchase too. Chaotic Gudra has announced they're launching a crowdfunder for their class called the Vessel. The Vessel has made a pact with a powerful being, and that being now uses you to enact their will onto the world. Your powers differ based on the type of powerful being you make it a deal with. If you're really curious what the class is about, the landing page for the campaign has a link to the 5 first levels as they currently are. The final release, should it be funded, will have a properly laid out PDF and, of course, the remaining 5 levels. Oh, and you might have seen the class under the name of Acolyte, but it was changed to avoid clashing with a future MCDM product that might also be named the Acolyte. Look Out Behind You Studios, the company of GubDM, whom you may also know from the MCDM community, have just funded an adventure and backer kit called Raiders of Ivywatch. According to the campaign, the adventure is centered around the titular town of Ivywatch. The town is built around a statue that's rumored to seal away an evil force. But now, Ajax and the Hawklords have ruined the town, stolen the statue, and in their wake, a gang of lizard folk are attacking the village. The adventure is to include more than 10 combats, 1 to 2 negotiations, new titles and treasures, packed into over 20 hours of gameplay. It'll include maps for all the combats, with some of them even including variations for different times of the day. The backer amount was $12. Hopefully, they'll open for late pledges for those who didn't get the chance to back initially. The Dice Society has published a revamped version of their introductory adventure, You Meet in an Ambush. The adventure is meant for players new to Drawsteel and introduces the main mechanics of Drawsteel one at a time. The adventure actually works as a lead-in to the Fall of Blackbottom adventure being published by MCDM later this year, so you can go from a gentle start getting used to the game, right into an adventure really showing off what makes Drawsteel fun to play. In the adventure, you start out in a tavern, because of course you do, meeting an old acquaintance. From there, things go from calmly helping the patrons in the tavern to the heroes being ambushed and having to save themselves and the patrons from perishing in the tavern. You can grab it for $3 on itch.io. Solace, whom I interviewed back in September of 2024, has released a massive document with 26 new retainers. While the Monsters book come with some retainers already, Solace felt there was a need to represent the different classes as retainers. Well, with all the subclasses, that sums up to 26 different retainers, one for each subclass. You can pay what you want for the document over on itch.io. And now, a few highlights from the community. As mentioned, Rise Heroes Rise has already played the Summoner class. They've recorded the session where they play using the codex and published it on YouTube. If you want to see what the Summoner is capable of in combat, that's one to check out. There's also more videos on the way showing off the Summoner at higher levels. Jester OC published a blog post where they muse on the perception of the no misses in Draw Steel. Here's from the post. Looking over a number of Reddit posts, I keep seeing a recurring theme. People want uncertainty in their game, and they assume that when attacks never miss, it means characters always achieve their desired results. I think Jester OC makes some good points in the rest of the post, which I'll let you read for yourself. EasyKL22 has created a set of cards to use when playing Draw Steel. These are cards with the list of things you can do on your turn as a cheat sheet for players. The intention is to flip the card once you've taken your turn. There's also a similar card for triggered actions. And then there's cards for hero tokens and surges that the players can take when they gain hero tokens and surges respectively. And lastly, there are condition cards to give players when conditions are applied to their character. These are really great. Greenfield Studios is back, this time with a video explaining surges. How they work is pretty quickly explained, but they also include a detailed breakdown of which classes grant the most surges and which subclasses is the best in surge. They also cover how different classes might focus on generating surges, while others mostly consume them. Teamwork makes the damage go up. Shadowhand Gaming has released a booklet of Tongue Eaters. This is a faction of 9 monsters ready to feast on your tongue. It also includes solo monsters in the form of the Devourer. The booklet can be picked up for free by joining the free tier of Shadowhand Gaming's Patreon. And of course, the Die Society has released a new episode of their podcast, and they did a live stream. In the podcast episode, Kaio talks about the Summoner and the Heroes PDF that dropped right before he released the episode. Then, he did a live stream on YouTube, paging through the PDF, looking at the near-finished layout and art. Now that Draw Steel is nearing release, other parts of the internet is starting to pay notice. From June, I want to particularly highlight the interview James did with Rascal News. If you're willing to spend the $1, you can read the whole thing. Well, most of that episode was covering stuff happening outside of MCDM, and I want that to be the case going forward. Especially after the game releases, I want Goblin Points to be a way for you to discover all the cool stuff that's being made for Draw Steel. MCDM has stated that they're eager for the community to contribute to the Draw Steel hobby, and I want Goblin Points to help those contributions be discovered. Goblin Points is of the community, with the community, for the community. Almost got a bit preachy at the end. Thank you for being a listener. If you want to be featured on Goblin Points, or know of someone else who should be, leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, or send me an email on tips@goblinpoints.com. Links to the MCDM Discord server, the subreddits for MCDM and Draw Steel, the YouTube channels of Matt and MCDM, the complete link section, and this script is in the show notes. It's also on goblinpoints.com. Next episode is on the 20th. This will actually be the episode featuring Hannah Rose. I apologize for the switcheroo in June. Paying patrons can usually submit questions for me to ask, but it's a bit late for that. But you can sign up for next time. Link is in the show notes. See you next time. Snackis.